Good morning. For religion today, we are talking about our saints of the month and our virtue of the month. So it is the month of March. Um, we spent last week preparing for Lent and talking a lot about Lent. So we're a little bit late in doing our saint and virtue of the month, but that's because we also have Lent going on right now. So we're going to get caught up. Our virtue of the month for March is respect. That is recognizing the dignity of all people. This is something that we have talked about in sixth grade. We've touched on it all year. We've talked about it. We need to keep talking about this because there are still people who keep forgetting. It's very common in middle school for people to be thinking about themselves and not realizing other people's perspectives. We've talked in social studies, we've talked in religion class about always trying to see other people's perspectives. So when we're talking about treating people with respect, we need to think about, am I being respectful in what I am saying and what I am doing with friends, with my family, with people I don't know? Remember, it's one of our Catholic social teachings that we have on that back wall to treat people with dignity and respect. This is how we should be behaving. Our society often bases a person's value on their appearance or abilities, but that is not how God sees us. In reality, what we are is much more important than what we can do. Each one of us is created in the image and likeness of God, and we are unique and unrepeatable gifts of His love. God loves us so much that He sent His Son Jesus to die for us, that we might live forever with Him in heaven. Each and every one of us. So we need to remember that God made every single person special and unique, and we need to treat them as the gift of God that they are. So we need to remember that if somebody bothers you, you still need to be respectful. Do you have to be somebody's best friend? No, but you still need to be kind and you still need to be respectful. If somebody is making choices that we don't like, you still need to be kind and respectful. Okay? We don't treat people meanly. If somebody is doing or just not somebody that we want to hang out with, you still need to treat them with dignity and respect. We have to remember that. We have talked a lot about how jokes can seem funny to us or seem not a big deal to us, but to other people, it's hurtful. Mateo has had to learn the hard way that the way he talks with his friends is not the way that he can talk with his sisters because they don't appreciate it. I don't like the way he and his friends sometimes talk to each other because they give each other a hard time, and I don't like it. But that's between him and his friends. Okay? They might say something like, "Oh, you're being such an idiot." I don't like it. I don't think we should call people names like that. But that's how they talk to one another, and they're okay with it. But then he'll turn around and he'll say it to his baby sister and say, "Oh, stop being such an idiot." And then she gets upset. And it hurts her feelings. And it's not okay. You have to be very careful on what you are saying to other people. I have had numerous people in sixth grade come up and tell me that they're bothered by something that somebody has said to them. And the other person didn't mean it in a negative way. They're not trying to be mean. They're not trying to be a bully, but what they're saying is mean and hurtful. And we need to make sure that we are stopping and reflecting on the things that we say to others. If you wouldn't say it to Jesus, don't say it to another person. Seriously. If Jesus was sitting at your table group right now and you wouldn't make the comment to him, you shouldn't be making the comment to someone else. Treat people with dignity and respect at all times. When we look at people from this perspective, we can't help but respect them. When we see the very poorest, the weakest, or those who think they have no worth, we know that God treasures them individually and that we are called to meet one another again in heaven. We cannot degrade them, harm, manipulate, or take any human life for granted. Instead, the gospel calls us to have deep respect for all people, including people of different ages, cultures, ideas, and abilities. So poor Gianna, I'm kind of picking on her today. Last week, she came home from school and she said, Mom, oh my goodness, do you know what these girls said to me? I'm like, what? She goes, well, in gym class, she went to Epiphany, which is a small school like St. Vincent's, and now she's at Blaine High School, which is one of the biggest high schools in the state. So it's a huge school. So she went from knowing everybody in her class and being friends with everyone to now she's at this huge school where she doesn't know a lot of people and she's making friends. But she's not the kind of person who is instantly friends with everyone. She's got her small group of friends that she knows, and she's kind of a quiet girl. So I think it was on Thursday, the friend that she hangs out with in gym class was gone. So she was just like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and wait for the gym teacher to get things set up and ready to go. And she was just quiet, sitting off to the side. She wasn't in a cluster of kids talking with others, and she was fine with that. She was like, I'm just waiting for class to start. And another girl came up to her and she's like, what's wrong with you? Don't you have any friends? And she was just like, wait, what? And she's like, you're so quiet. And she's like, yeah. So? And she's like, if this would have happened 5 years ago, I would have been really upset by it because it would have made me super sad. She goes, I have more confidence now that I can just look at that girl and go, well, that was rude. Like, that was just really weird and rude. Why would you say that to somebody? And she just kind of blew her off and went about with her day. And I was like, gosh, that poor girl doesn't have enough sense to know that that's not how you should talk to somebody. I said, well, did she invite you over to her group of friends? She said, no. She just came up and said, what's wrong with you? Don't you have any friends? And then she left. Jeez. And I'm like, well, that's just rude. If you see somebody whose friend isn't there and they're sitting by themselves, what would be the respectful thing to do? What do you guys think this girl should have done, Nick?
Like, I don't know, talk to them some more, or maybe invite them to their friend group.
Yeah. Say, hey, it looks like your friend is in here today. You want to come hang with us? It would have been simple and easy, right? And Gianna could have said yes, could have said no. She might, sometimes we're just in a introverted kind of mood where you just want to be by yourself and it's not a big deal. But she would have appreciated the thought instead of saying, don't you have any friends? You're by yourself. It was just really weird. And we both said, wow, I think they need to learn how to be respectful and kind. Because it was just not kind. I'm like, she seriously didn't invite you over to her group of friends? She's like, no, she just walked back over to her friends. Don't be like that, okay? Think about it from the other person's perspective. Don't throw something out there without realizing how that's going to make the other person feel. Like I said, thank goodness, Gianna has grown up and she's got some more confidence to herself and she could look at that girl and say, well, that's your problem. You're being rude and that's on you. And I'm going to say, oh, thank goodness I don't behave the way that you behave. Okay, but it's taken her a while to get there. Okay, like I said, 5 years ago, she would have came home really upset and bothered that this girl said that to her. Now she knows, yeah, I do have friends. My friend was absent that day. It's not a big deal. But be kind, right? Like, we all heard the story and went, oh, well, that was weird. But how many of us have said something like that without realizing the way that it sounds when it comes out of our mouth? Without realizing how somebody else is going to take that? It's super easy to make a comment without realizing how it comes across to other people. So be careful in what you say. Be careful in how you say it. Always be looking at the reaction from other people. If they make a face like, what? Even if they don't say it, you can realize by the face they're making, by their expression, that, ooh, that didn't come out the way I meant it to come out. Okay. Look at other people's perspectives. How are they taking things? How can you treat them respectfully? All right, our saint of the month is St. John Paul II. So we've talked about him just a little bit in class. He became saint during my lifetime. He was, or not saint, he became pope during my lifetime. And then some people go on kind of on the fast track to sainthood. Some people, it takes a super long time to become a saint. Well, Pope John Paul II became saint rather quickly. So let's learn a little bit about him. Karol Wojtyła experienced great suffering and loss as a child. His mother died when he was 8 years old, and when Karol was 12, his only brother died. Karol was only 20 when his father died, leaving him alone in the world. So he had no more family, but by the time he was 20. A brilliant student, actor, and devout Catholic, Karol eventually had to study, act, and pray in secret because he lived during the Nazi occupation of Poland. His archbishop secretly trained Karol and a few other young men for the priesthood, and Karol was ordained in 1946. The Nazis wanted everybody to be just like them, and they were not Catholic. They were Protestant. So they didn't like the Jewish people, and they didn't even want people to be Catholic, even though we believed in Jesus Christ, like the Protestants believe in Jesus Christ. They still had issue because the Pope is our leader, and they didn't want people to be looking to the Pope. They wanted people to look to Hitler to be the leader. So even though the Nazis occupied Poland, he still studied to become a priest. Despite so much sorrow and struggle, Karol possessed true greatness of soul. He believed in the dignity and goodness of all people and loved them. Along with being a scholar and actor, he was an outdoorsman and athlete and possessed a great sense of humor. Others recognized his indomitable spirit and followed his natural leadership. He was ordained a bishop at the age of 38, the youngest in his country. He became the Archbishop of Krakow, then a cardinal, and in 1978 he was elected Pope, taking the name Pope John Paul II. St. John Paul II's deep appreciation and zeal for the dignity of all people changed the world. With the power of truth, he played an important role in the collapse of European communism. He strengthened dialogue with Jewish, Islamic, Eastern Orthodox, and Anglican believers. He visited and kissed the ground of 129 countries. He showed the dignity of people of all ages and cultures by beatifying over 1,000 people and canonizing over 400 saints to show that all people are called to holiness, not just people from this country. People from everywhere have the ability to be able to become saints. So it doesn't matter if you were rich or if you were poor, what color your skin was, everybody has the ability to become a saint. So what are some of the challenges St. John Paul II experienced in life that could have challenged his trust in God and in humanity? What made him steadfast in respect? What do you think, Will? What are some challenges that could have made him question God?
He had to practice. He had to practice. I don't know, but
he had to be Catholic in private. He had to study to become a priest in private, in secret. And he could say, well, the Nazis are doing this, that, and the other. Why is God allowing that to happen? Right? So instead of questioning why is God allowing this, He kept his faith in God. What is something else that might have challenged him? Nick?
His family dying.
His family dying. I know my mom died when I was 24, and it was really hard. I was really young when she died. His mom died even younger. And when people die like that, we might question, why did they have to die? Why aren't they here with me? But instead of questioning God, it helped him grow stronger and closer to God. Why do you think having a deep respect for all people would lead to challenging communism and forging relationships with other faith traditions? So when we respect others, we can help change people's ways. We've talked about how Putin is invading the Ukraine and how that's wrong. And he's trying to dominate. He's trying to make Russia this bigger power. Is he respecting the Ukrainian people? No. So we need to model that respect and show that respect and help him to change his ways. So we need to pray that God is able to come into his heart and change his mind on how he's viewing the Ukraine. We need to pray that he learns respect. If we model that respect, maybe he might become more respectful. Sometimes that's like that here in 6th grade. If we can model how to talk to people, that, oh my goodness, it wouldn't be right to tell somebody who's sitting by themselves, why don't you have any friends? That's not respectful. We should say, hey, why don't you come join us? Model that respect for other people so they will learn from it and they'll start acting that way. Why do you think St. John Paul II kissed the ground when he visited a country? Well,
Bless the country.
yeah, maybe blessing the country. Maybe it's a way of recognizing that it's a beautiful place, even though it's different from what he knows, what he grew up with. It's a sign of respect. I have a little activity for us. It's a personal activity, so it's not a group activity. We have our March Virtue activity. Sometimes we disrespect a person unintentionally. We might laugh at or avoid people who are different from us because we have never seen someone like them before, or because we aren't sure how to act around them. So I'm wondering if this girl in Gianna's gym class just didn't know what to do. I'm not hard to believe, but I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt that she just wasn't sure how to take it a step further, inviting her to join their group. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the different examples on here, and you're going to write down what would be an example of people who are different ages that you come into contact with. Brainstorm examples of people of different ages, cultures, ideas, and abilities. Then write how you plan to show respect when you meet people who are different from you in that way. So it's not awkward and weird like the girl in Gianna's gym class. Okay? Sometimes we have to think about it ahead of time. What would I do? What would I do if I end up going to a funeral and I have to sit at a table with a bunch of aunts and uncles I don't know, and they're all older, and what do? Do I just sit here quietly? Or can I start up a conversation with them? What can I do to respect people of different ages? What about if I end up sitting next to somebody who has a different culture? And sometimes it's obvious because they're dressed in their culture, not in the European American way that we dress. So yeah, you could ask them about it. Okay, so you're gonna write down examples of people from different cultures where you might see somebody like that. And what can you do to show respect? Ask them, hey, that is a really cool outfit you have on. Can you tell me about it? Does it have any meanings to it? Why do you wear it? What about that? So sometimes you'll see people of the Muslim faith and the women wear the wraps. You could ask them about it. Why? Instead of just saying, well, that's weird. I wouldn't want to wear that. Well, that's not respectful. But asking and gaining an understanding, you're showing respect for them. Nolan?
Don't Jews have to wear little hats on their head?
Typically, it depends. There's different branches of Judaism. Some the men constantly wear it. Some they only wear it when they go. I think it's a yarmulke. They only wear it when they go into the temple to cover their head as a sign of respect to God. So yeah, there are differences in different cultures, in different religions. People who have different ideas. We've talked about this with politics. I know we've talked about it in class. We know people that, especially last year when it was an election year, there was a lot of conversations about, ooh, we like this, we like that. The Democrats, the Republicans, Trump, Biden. We still need to show respect. Okay? Just because somebody is different, has different views, doesn't mean we can call names. Doesn't mean that we can say negative things about them. I've had to have conversations with Mr. Gambino about this because sometimes he gets really riled up and I have to say, no, we still have to be respectful. We are Catholic. We don't get to call names. It's not okay. Even if it's just in our own house, it's still not okay. And we still need to be respectful in the things that we say. So people with different ideas, we still need to show respect at all times. People with different abilities. It could be as simple as people on different levels of a sports team. I know in soccer, Gianna and I were just talking about it. She's like, oh, I'm kind of glad I'm not on the premier soccer team because they have so much pressure put on them and they have to perform. They have to be on at all times. She goes, it's not as stressful for me. I get to enjoy my soccer team. So she's at the mid-level range. She's like, I get to have fun. If I was on the high team, then it wouldn't be as much fun for me because I would be feeling that pressure that I have to do my best at all. I mean, she does try her best at all times, but she's not going to feel as bad when she makes a mistake or if something happens. How can you be respectful of these people on different teams? Sometimes I hear stories about people on the high team looking down. I know when Rosa was on the B squad for high school for soccer, and she had to ride the bus with the varsity team, and they weren't, not all, some of the varsity players were not respectful to the B squad players. And they treated them like they were less than because they were on a different team, which is not okay. And then some of the varsity players are like, knock it off, guys, because they were trying to tell them that they had to sit in a certain spot. And they're like, no, you guys can sit wherever you want. That's just silly. We're all playing for Blaine High School. We're going to all represent our school well. So how do you treat people with different abilities? It could be physical abilities. Somebody who is handicapped. How are you going to treat them? It could be somebody who, there's lots of different abilities. How do you treat people like that? So we're going to take a little bit of time doing this activity. If you are listening to this at home, you're going to do the one in Google Classroom, and you're going to submit it. Those of us here in class are going to do it on the paper, and you're going to turn it into me. This is an assignment. It will go in the grade book. I'm not for try. It is try 3 now, so it has to be try 3. Today is the first day of try 3. So shh. So this is an assignment. I will put it in as part of our daily work or participation, whatever. I think that's the same category. No. Not for this activity. This activity is a written one. So for those of us that are listening at home, we hope you are well. We hope to see you soon.